All right. Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Trent Blizzard, and I'm excited to have you here today for our webinar on Arizona. And I am here with three Arizona experts who are going to share their stories about just how awesome it is to forage in the mountains of Arizona. And we're going to talk about the rim. And one of the questions we always have, Michael, how do you say that word, the rim?
Mogollon.
Mogollon. So we're going to
Mogollon
talk about
Rim.
the Mogollon Rim. I'm here with Michael Colosimo
There you go.
uh, from Arizona Mycological Society. I don't know if he says his last name exactly that way.
Close enough.
And
That's good.
I'm here with Brent and
Hi there.
Ewasiuk. I really
Ewasiuk. Yeah.
Ewasiuk.
It's a
Thank
tough
you.
one.
And then I saved the easy one for last. Chad Hyatt. Welcome.
Yeah, you pronounced my name right, so points for that.
Now, before I turn it over to Michael, I do want to just show off our upcoming events here. We have our NAMA MX coming up in August. That will be in Mexico and outside of Mexico City at a really nice resort out there up in the mountains. It's just like in Arizona, it's a wonderful place to be late in the summer with the mushrooms just really blowing up there at those higher elevations. Then we have Namazona, August 22nd through 25th. For those of you in the know, that is the weekend after Telluride. So I think there'll be a little pilgrimage from a number of people moving from the Telluride Mushroom Festival over to Namazona, which we're going to talk about. And then we have our Pacific Northwest NAMA camp, and that will happen, starts on Halloween, and that is in Randall, Washington, up in the PNW, and promises to be just an exciting event. We have a bunch of world-class speakers and a lot of mushrooms and a big culinary side to it. So that should be a lot of fun. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my screen share here. And I'm going to turn this over to Michael and ask you to kind of start by telling us about the White Mountains and the Mogollon Rim.
Yeah, there you go. Mogollon Rim.
Mogollon.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Trent. So yeah, basically what we're gonna start off with is show some pictures and maybe dispel some myths about Arizona in the summer for mushroom hunting, because a lot of the questions we get, like, isn't it 115 degrees in Arizona? It is in Phoenix, but we won't be in Phoenix. So we're going to be at the Mogollon Rim for Namazona 2024. It's August 22nd through 25th. And you can see here on this slide, on the right-hand side, that's the rim right there. So this is a lower elevation on this road. But then if you look up, we're going to be on top of that. So that's the Mogollon Rim, and if the picture to the left, this is kind of what it looks like from the top of the rim on Rim Road 300. It goes the whole length of the rim, and you can just see the trees. There's snow up there, obviously not in the winter, but obviously not in the summer, but in the winter you're going to get snow up there. So let me go to the next slide here. I figure that out. There we go. So one of the most striking geologic features in Arizona is the Mogollon Rim. It's a steep escarpment measured in thousands of feet and hundreds of miles, and it begins just across the border in New Mexico and stretches diagonally 2/3 of the way across Arizona. It forms a southern edge of the Colorado Plateau and stands as one of the most impressive overlooks in the Grand Canyon State. So the elevation is, we have up to 8,000 feet on the Mogollon Rim. If you go up to Alpine, you're going to get a little bit higher, but for the Mogollon Rim, we're going to be up to 8,000 feet, and the average temperature in August is going to be a high of 75 and a low of 55. So much cooler than 115 degrees, and this is why our mushroom season's in the summer. So obviously in the winter, it's just going to be snow and too cold. But in the summer, it is prime mushroom season. So we'll be nestled in the heart of Coconino National Forest. It's a perfect blend of natural beauty and diverse ecosystems. It's an ideal setting for mushroom hunting enthusiasts of all levels. We have towering pine forests that meet expansive meadows and serene lakes. And summer, like I said, summer in Mogollon Rim is peak mushroom season. And the monsoon rains that come with the summer creates a rich, moist environment perfect for a wide variety of wild mushrooms, including prized species like chanterelles, boletes, and more. So we do have lakes. So there is water in Arizona, despite being in the desert. So we have three main forest lakes that are not too far from actually where we'll be foraging. So if you have some downtime, you can always visit some of these lakes. Pretty clear water. You could take canoes in there. You could go swimming if you want. So we got Bear Canyon Lake, Woods Canyon Lake, and Willow Springs Lake. And then here's some pictures, more pictures of the lakes. You can see here on the bottom left, there's snow. We got, I think Bear Canyon is the top left right there. So yeah, water in Arizona. Who knew? So these pictures are actually taken by Brent. So Brent, if you want to interrupt any of these pictures, feel free. But we have a monsoon rain here in the middle, and then some pictures from the rim and overlooking the valley. It looks like, and of course we have the Milky Way right there. That looks pretty nice.
It's actually overlooking the town of Payson.
Right here.
Yeah. And
Okay,
then
perfect.
some of the overlooks are spectacular, and some of my favorite places to go camping is to find a spot in the rim where you have some great signal for cell coverage, and just the views and the sunsets are phenomenal right after a hard day of picking up mushrooms, right?
Yep, exactly. So there you go. There's some more pictures from Brent, and there's Brent himself. So we got some porcini, and there's a campfire. And what else we got there, Brent?
Next to me is the lion's mane, which
There you
is
go.
one of my favorite things to hunt up on the rim. It takes some creativity to get them out of trees that are 40 feet high, though.
Right.
Yeah.
But lots of ruby boletes, different, so many species on the rim that it's incredible. We keep finding new ones every summer, right? Depending on conditions, and the kitchen conditions vary from year to year too. So it's
Right.
just a great place to be, and it's close enough to town for us valley people, right? So
Right. That's a good point. So on the rim, to get to the Namazona event location, it's only about an hour and 45 minutes from Phoenix. Maybe even a little bit less depending on traffic and where you're starting from. But from Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, it's an hour and 45. Quick drive. It's a beautiful drive. So you're not driving 4 hours into the mountains. So we kept it pretty close for this event.
Hey, I got a couple questions for you
Yeah.
guys. First, with a comment, we had Chris in the chat share a link to the etymology of Mogollon.
Mhm.
I really struggle with that word. That it was based on Juan Ignacio Flores Mogollon, who was a governor and a Spanish military officer back in the 1700s,
Oh,
and the
there you
rim
go.
was named after him. So
There's some history that I didn't even know.
yeah,
Good
it's
one.
interesting. It's in the chat if you want to read about it.
Awesome.
Anyone else? A couple questions about that. One, and you forgive me, kind of, I'm in Wisconsin right now, and we have a lot of ticks and we have a lot of mosquitoes. Tell me, are there mosquitoes up at that high elevation in Arizona in the summer?
Yeah, there can be mosquitoes. Definitely mosquitoes. I personally have never seen a tick in Arizona. Not saying that we don't have them, but if I go to California or if I go to any of the other mushroom spots, just like where was the last one I was at? Chad, where were we?
Oh God, yeah. Where did I just see? Oh, in Santa Cruz. Yeah.
Santa Cruz. I was in the forest for about 20 minutes and we went to dinner and I had 2 ticks crawling on me. I didn't go into the woods. I was, pretty careful, but I was just walking around and somehow they got to me. But I've never seen a tick in Arizona. But I know that they're out there, but it's nothing like other states that you're going to go to. But we do have mosquitoes up there, but not like North Carolina where they're in your face all the time, but they're definitely out there. Brent, do you have anything to add to that?
a little more likely that you'll encounter the mosquitoes if you're camped next to a
Yeah.
body of water, like one of the
Right.
lakes or something like that. But other than that, it's not too bad. There are some no-see-ums in the springtime. It's mainly below the rim, like around 3,000-4,000 feet or 5,000 feet, somewhere in there. There's kind of a different habitat, and those can be a little pesky. But the high season for those are like in May usually, and they can be a little bit unbearable. But up on the rim during the monsoon season, it's just perfect. It's absolutely wonderful.
Now, Barbara Ching is on the chat too. And before we come back to mushrooms, I know we're talking about bugs. She's asking if there's deer there because she says where there's probably deer, there's probably ticks.
Yeah, I do
there
have a
are
slide.
deer, right?
Yeah, I have a slide. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, we do have deer. So deer ticks are probably a thing, but I don't think there's been any recorded cases of what's
Lyme.
that? what's that disease?
Lyme's
The Lyme
disease.
disease, yeah,
Lyme's,
Lyme
yeah.
disease in Arizona. I might be wrong though, but I haven't heard of anybody getting Lyme disease from Arizona. It's going to be more of California and other states. So, like, really, like I've been in Arizona since I was about 2 years old. I'm 38 now, and I've never seen a tick here. So yeah, but we do have deer, we do have wildlife, and we'll get to that slide in a bit.
Well, actually, a friend of mine saw one last week in Vine. He did, yeah. He
tick
was
or
actually
deer?
very surprised, right? Because they are a rare occurrence here. So
Yeah.
we don't see them very
Now,
often, but they are here, but just not in huge numbers like you guys get back east.
huge numbers. We weigh them by the pound out here in Wisconsin. Hey, John Sommer's on here, and being John Sommer, the mycologist, he is bringing us back to the mushrooms. Thank you, John.
There you go.
He's asking, is that a Calabolitis calopus variety frostosis? I'm picking all the hard words to say today, and I assume we're looking at that one that has the pink pore surface. He's asking about. Is that
Right.
the one?
No, it's not the Calabolitis. It's I'm trying to think of it now. Now you got me stumped on that one myself, but it's not a Calabolitis. We have like a Swillus that has the orange pore, and then the red pore. I'm not 100%. I'll have to look this up real quick, but
That's
I
a
don't
good
I'll get back
recognize
to you
that.
that
There's
later in the talk.
definitely-
How's that?
There's definitely a common Rubra in on the rim that I've seen a ton of on the rim that has red pores, but it doesn't look like that. But it could just
Yeah,
be.
that's what this is in. I think in that group. I'll see if I can nab it in the observations,
Mhm.
but
Now there's a ton of species, and we know that in Arizona. There's a really good webinar on our site about boletes that
Mhm.
Chris May did about Arizona just 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. Can you tell us, Michael, about if you come to Namazona, who are the experts and how are we going to
Yes.
ID mushrooms? And I'm
question.
going to start by saying John Sommer will be there.
Yep. John Summer. We'll also have Terry Clements. She's our resident mycologist for Arizona Mushroom Society, and she personally, she's in charge of doing all of our DNA sequencing. So I think in Arizona, she personally and AMS have sequenced over 900 species, I believe, and a good majority of those are novel species, I think.
it's
so
over
she'll be there.
1,000 now.
Is it over 1,000? Okay, so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's over 1,000 in Arizona.
Yeah, so we do a lot of DNA sequencing here at AMS. She's the resident expert. We will also have somebody called Spencer. Spencer is kind of he's also our prodigy here in Arizona, and getting trained by Terry and a bunch of other people. So we will have the experts, and of course our foray leads will have a lot of knowledge. Mike Decter will be leading some of our forays, and he's very knowledgeable. I know Brent's going to be leading some. I'm not sure if I'll have time to lead some or not, but we will have a lot of experts. We'll have our ID table set up, vouchering program, all that good stuff.
Let me put another plug in there too. Sorry to interrupt, Chad. NAMA, I think, is sending out for our voucher team, I think, Patrick Leacock. Maybe Brooke can verify that in the webinar chat. And Patrick Leacock is absolutely brilliant and knowledgeable about mushrooms out here in the Midwest, obviously where he's from. But he'll be another expert on site, so we'll be able to ID. Sorry, Chad, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We can keep going.
All right, we'll go to the next slide. We'll get through this stuff, and then we'll have more of a conversation here. So there's just some more pictures of what you can find on the rim. So again, we have amanitas, we got boletes, we have aspen boletes. They're or scaber stalks, as we should call them now. I'm not going to try any of the scientific names, but Lachinum. We have Caesar's amanita. We have coral mushrooms. Chanterelles are here. We have blushers, and we have moss. There's definitely enough moisture here for some moss.
We also get matsutakes too, believe it or not.
We do get matsutakes. I've never personally found any, but they're out here.
Yeah, it's the Mesoamerican version of it, but not similar to the one found in the New West, or in the New West, Northwest, I should say.
That's it. So here's some more pictures of some mushroom baskets, some porcini. At the bottom right here is Arizona Mushroom Society took out a college group from one of the colleges. They have a mushroom club, so we took them out in a foray to teach them a lot about finding mushrooms in Arizona on the rim. And then here, this basket was one of our regional or annual forays. Just we have, there's wild mint, there's wild oregano, lobster mushrooms, and everything and anything you want to eat out here.
Yeah, and one should say also that there's a lot of morchellas, like both naturals and fire morels in the springtime too. coincidentally timed with the bracken fern season, which is great too.
Right.
So you can have
Yeah.
great feasts of combinations of those too.
Right. Yeah, we just went out, Brent and I went out this weekend, and I had morels and bracken ferns and with a steak. So I didn't put any of those pictures in here because I don't want to mislead anybody about morels in summer. But it is a springtime mushroom here as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as far as the plants go, there are going to be a few people on this foray who are very much experts in the local plants that can help us with that. I know I'm
Yep.
personally looking forward to learning a little bit more about that myself.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, so Mike Decter will be one of his forays will be also including information about wild edible plants. And I have a slide for that as well. So here's some more pictures. Not all of these were taken on the rim, so keep that in mind. So just showing the diversity of mushrooms that we have in Arizona. Some of these were from Alpine, some of these were from Mount Graham, that's more south. Here we have Alan Rockefeller, my friend Zach, and Mike Decter in the bottom left here. We were looking at I forgot what it's called, but it has some psychoactive properties. I can't remember the name of the mushroom, but it's a wood rotter.
Gymnopolis luteifolius.
That's Gymnopolis luteifolius or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a pretty big find for him at the time to see that one here. Some scaber stalks, and then the helvellas, some wild plants, some wild sorrel, and then some I think there's some chanterelles in there too. But yeah, I can't remember the name of the red ones over here. Somebody was saying that earlier.
So there's a
Chat.
million people tell you 3 different names for the
Yeah.
genus. I learned it as Exudoporus frostii, and
Yeah.
so this is actually a good, interesting little side note. One of the things that's very cool about places on the rim and also in some of the Sky Islands in Arizona is there's the usual stuff you expect to see out west in the Rockies, but there's also some interesting mushrooms that we don't think of as being Western mushrooms, like the frostii here, like Harriochromapes is an Eastern bolete that I have found on the rim. There's an interesting mix of trees and just the geological isolation over time. We've got some really cool, interesting stuff that you don't see anywhere else out west.
Yep.
And one should say too, below the rim itself too, there's several biomes in Arizona, 7 or 8, I think, in total. But just below the rim, we have a lot of oak habitat, right? So those can be found, the Exudoporus frostii, and even butter boletes and stuff in the lower elevations of the rim, right? Just below the rim.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll be all around that area as well for this event. Yeah, I think Arizona is quite a convergence of different regions. You know, you have your West Coast mushrooms, you have stuff coming up from Mexico, Oaxaca, you know, all those mountain ranges. East Coast mushrooms, everything kind of converges on the rim, and the White Mountains and Alpine, and we have quite the diversity here.
Do we have a comment about the Amanitas, the Amanita cochiciana?
Yep, perfect.
Is that
right?
Can you? That's a first. Can you guys talk for a minute about those and maybe show that picture again? And
yeah, definitely. Those are one of my favorites. Let me find that. It's going to be a couple back, I think. So here, so these, I don't know if you can see my pointer or not, but
yes, we can.
Oh, you can. Okay, so these yellow mushrooms right here are Amanita cochiciana. It is our version of Caesar's Amanita, and they are spectacular, especially if you get them that young right there. They are delicious. They're firm. They have a great nutty flavor. And, we don't suggest eating mushrooms raw in any mycological association. However, there are exceptions to the rule, and these go great with some olive oil, lemon juice, Parmesan cheese, parsley, and they're just spectacular. And they are unique to the region. Yeah, anybody else have anything to say about those?
Yeah, I would say that they're not just really good to eat. You can find spectacular fruitings of them too. Yeah. I've been through there where there's just hundreds of them up, and they can be dinner plate sized sometimes. Yep. They're spectacular to see.
Can you preserve those?
You can. I've done it at least.
I dry them. I dry them, but I dry them actually whole. Like take the cap and everything, right? Rather than cutting them into pieces, because they get a little bit frail with time. So I take and dry the entire mushroom. which is
Are they good when they open up too, or do you want to get the kind of buttony ones like that?
They can get a little weird. You know, the younger the better, but I've eaten them as they've gotten older. But the bigger they get, maybe the less fresh they'll taste. They might have a little bit of a fishy flavor. So at least that's what I've experienced. But
I think the big thing, sorry, to cut you off. The
Yeah.
big thing I think is just with all the amanitas I eat, I just think the stem's the best part. When they're
Mhm.
buttony, the kind of they're fine, the caps are fine, but as they mature, they're just the cap is all gills. There's
Mhm.
not much else to them, so
Right.
the
That's a good
substance
point.
mostly in the stem.
Yeah.
Noted.
I've pickled them before, and
Yeah,
and
they pickle well.
yeah,
I've
they were
pickled them
very,
too.
very good pickled. So that's also an option for preservation.
While we're on the mushroom questions, John Somer asked, is that a Boletus barosii?
I think it was on the
Uh,
next slide.
Yeah, did we have any Barosii
I
here?
think
Let's
there was
see.
one on that
Yeah,
on the
and
plate with the frosty eye. There was I think like the corner of a Barosii. The
there you
one
go,
next slide.
right in the top center and the bottom left.
No,
Oh,
that's the
Oh,
ruby.
the
That was
this is
Barosia.
the
bigger.
Oh, that's
Rubiceps,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are rubies. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, those are
Um,
rubies. I don't think I had
I
any.
thought
Did
like
I
so
have?
in the top, the second
Oh
from
yeah, right here,
yeah,
right here.
that's the
Oh,
corner
Right
of
this I
there.
see. Yep, right here.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Barosii is on the rim too.
yeah,
and
I
they
like
they
Barosii on
fruit
the rim.
in great numbers.
yeah.
Barosi actually up there. I've gone into where every stop has been like at least two baskets on some parts of
Yep.
the season and in under great conditions. So yeah,
Yeah.
Barosi are awesome, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that's worth talking about actually. My experience in Arizona, like some of the best bolete days I've ever had, just picking porcini in ridiculous quantities have been in Arizona. And it's both the rubriceps, the ruby boletes, and the white ones, the
Right.
Barrowsia that we're talking about, depending on the year and your time. I mean, with mushroom events, of course, it's always timing, who knows until you get there, but there are times when there are just more of them than you can pick.
Hmm.
How do those two species stack up, Chad? You've been around the North America and the globe. How do those two species stack up to other porcini in North America
I think they're
on the
both
plate?
I mean, I think all the porcini are really good that I've had anywhere, but I think I know a lot of people who think the rubriceps are the best ones in North America. I love them. I really like the Barrowsii a lot.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to compare them other than to say they're both really good eating, and they both preserve really well too. So
And one should mention now too, since we've been documenting species in Arizona, is that we found two other species of white boletes here, oak related, but two distinct species that we have. And I have eaten them too, and they're a lot sweeter than a white bolete, like the regular Barosii, but they're a very interesting and complex flavor, which I've been enjoying picking in areas under the rim, right? Like in
are
Sedona and in oak habitats, right?
are they,
Mostly
are they
for
actually both boletus?
yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is just back to there's so much crazy diversity in mushrooms in Arizona that people don't think of it as a mushroom place.
Right. The secret's out. We're gonna get out. So
And it
Yeah,
looks like
the white species that are in the oak related habitats below the rim are smaller in stature, not as big as the Barosii that we have, because some of the Barosii here can get massive, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and fruit
Yeah.
in great numbers, but the smaller ones are they're about half the size of a regular Barosii, but totally worth taking.
we also have now Roy Holling and Chris May in the house, making a few
Hey,
comments
Chris.
in the chat.
Awesome.
And Chris mentioned the fishy nature of the
Yeah.
Cochiciana and said use them in a fish or shrimp dish.
Right.
So making the best of it. And Roy's dropping a little knowledge on the frosty eye out of Costa Rica. Back to the Cochiciana though, just because Julie Case asked about when do those come in? Like I think she's asking what's the season on
Summer. Yeah, so it's all going to be the summer during the monsoons. So the monsoons should start in hopefully in June, right? So you're going to have June, July, get some good rain, and then everything will start happening mid-June, end of June, or not mid-July, end of July, depending on the rain. It really depends on the rain, of course, but August is the prime time for everything. Because you'll have the good monsoons have come through. Everything's nice and wet. The mycelium's doing its thing. It's going to start fruiting. But August is really when you want to start making a serious effort of mushroom hunting in Arizona. You can find stuff earlier and you can find stuff later, but the bulk of it's going to be in August. Brent, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, well, I mean, there's certain species that will have a tendency to fruit a little bit earlier, like some of the boletes will go a touch earlier, like anywhere between the end of last week of July into mid-August is the best time for the boletes, for the bigger ones. And then you have like hedgehogs, and we get also a lot of chanterelles, which are kind of more towards the later part of August when they start to appear, right?
Yep.
And it all depends on conditions and how much monsoon and when we get it. So
Can you talk a little bit about, for especially the people that aren't from the mountains, hey, what is the monsoon? How does it work? How does it impact our day in Arizona? And maybe also mention, I know Mike Decter was sharing his kind of favored weather forecasts with us. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the weather and what we might expect.
Yeah, definitely. So during monsoon season, I'll do my best here, but we're gonna get a year's worth of rain in a couple months. And if you're in the valley during a monsoon, it can get it's pretty wild. There's a big downpour, huge gusts of wind, lightning, all that. If you ever seen those pictures of haboobs, they call them now for some reason, which they're dust storms. That's kind of around the same time period. We used to just call them dust storms, but now they're called haboobs for some reason. But yeah, it's a very heavy downpour of water for a couple months, but they are also very sporadic. So it's not like it's going to be a 3-day long monsoon. It's going to be maybe a couple hours, and you're just getting a downpour, and that soaks the whole valley, that soaks the rim. And
sunshine comes out and
Yeah.
the rainbows appear, and it's absolutely gorgeous, right?
And then, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's usually a daily affair up on the rim. It'll start out, the mornings will be clear, and then the clouds will roll in about 11, 12 o'clock, and then there'll be a big storm in certain areas, and then by 2, 3 o'clock, it's all blown out and it's sunny again into the night.
Yeah, exactly what Brent said has been my experience every time I'm in the mountains in Arizona. It's exactly that. We go out, we have a great time in a clear morning. Lunchtime, the storm rolls in for an hour or two, and we go back, we eat, we maybe, sort our mushrooms, and then by the time we're done, the storm is gone and it's back to hunting in a sunny day again. It's like clockwork almost every day in a good year.
Yep.
And that's what brings all the great fruiting.
Yeah.
And that's why we get so many cool mushrooms, right?
Yeah.
I always, when I'm hunting during the afternoons, especially, I always have my rain gear with me, even if I don't see the rain coming. Like, it invariably comes with a good hard storm if you don't bring it.
Yeah,
definitely a requirement here.
Yeah, bring your little rain jacket if you do end up coming to Arizona, just in case.
And then can you share Mike Decter's forecast? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so the National Weather Service, I don't have anything pulled up right now, but it's going to, they're predicting average to above average, I think it was, rainfall for our monsoon season.
Well, that would be great.
Yeah.
And that came out of the context of some other people were predicting lower than average, but the National Weather Service, which obviously is a favored resource, was actually predicting average or above.
There's usually two groups of or two different predictions, and they're always conflicting. So we tend to go by the National Weather Service as our Bible, if you will.
What's more dangerous? Chris May's chatting about lightning, rattlesnakes or lightning?
Lightning is way more dangerous.
Yeah, lightning.
And lightning, that's I'm glad he brought that up. That's when the storms roll in every day, lightning is very, very common. It's as you see the storm starting to come towards you, you need to pay attention and make sure you have a path back to a safe place like your car, because you don't want to be caught out in the lightning storm. You could see rattlesnakes. I've seen rattlesnakes hunting mushrooms there, but rattlesnakes don't want to mess with you. If they know you're there, they're going the other way as quickly as they can.
Yep. I know they're out there. I've personally never seen a rattlesnake on the rim, but they are there. you know, so that is something to take note of and respect the wildlife. But yeah, like everybody said here, is the lightning is, you know, something to respect out here. As so
I
our
I
foray
have
leads will.
I've
Yep.
definitely seen the rattlesnakes on the rim.
Have
Most
you?
of it's a species called the Arizona black, and so they're very difficult to see because they are literally black. Unless they're young, they have a little more brilliant colors. But I have seen like a couple of them, and surprisingly, they can occur in almost any habitat on the rim. So just be aware of it. But it's like Chad said, 9 times out of 10, a snake is always going to retreat. And so there's nothing really to worry about. But I have seen them actually in aspen habitat, which is really
Oh
interesting.
wow.
Yeah, that's odd. 'Cause it's usually wetter. Yeah, I
Yeah.
every time I've come across a rattlesnake, they're trying to get away as soon as they know that I know they're there, they're trying to get away as quickly as possible every time I've come across a rattlesnake in Arizona or anywhere else.
Yeah. We do get quite a bit of bear up on the rim though too. So I've seen them out picking before, like been up close to bear. They usually mind their own. They're either into whatever kind of greenery that they're picking, but I have seen them up close too. So
Yeah, definitely. And I have a couple slides on that as well. We'll go through this one real quick. So we have some Sparassis. My friend Chad has found his first lobster mushroom at our annual foray one year. And then again, in just a basket full of different kinds of mushrooms. I think there's some velvet
Oh,
foot in there
you
as
just
well.
throw that Sparassis picture in there kind of casually.
Yeah,
It's
Chad,
worth
that's-
talking about this.
Let's talk
Sparassis
about
lobster.
that.
yeah.
I'd love to say something about this as somebody who doesn't live in Arizona. Most places I have ever been, and I pick mushrooms in a lot of places these days, Sparassis are a very special,
Mhm.
wow kind of find. You get very excited. Every time I'm in Arizona, it seems like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. And the ones in Arizona are as good as any I've picked anywhere. And they just seem to be really much more common there than anywhere else I've been. I don't know why that is, but they're fantastic, and it's one of my favorite parts of being in Arizona.
Yeah, we have a lot of Sparassis here, and even especially last year when we picked, you know, I guess the wrong weekend for our annual foray, which is a little bit earlier in August. Uh, you know, it was fairly dry still. There was enough mushrooms to make people happy, but what everybody kept coming back with was Sparassis. It was Sparassis all day, every day, and just giant balls of Sparassis. So they're out here. And they're very prevalent. And then again, with the Namazona, this is why we chose a bit later in August, towards the end of it, so to make sure we get, you know, have the highest possibility of getting all that rain for this event.
one
And
should
that-
say too that our species of Sparassis is unique too.
Mhm.
Ours is the
It is.
Sparassis americana arizonica, I believe. And
Yep.
so it's a little bit yellower, I believe, versus like the Radica that's
Mm-hmm.
found in the Northwest. There's a little
Yeah.
bit whiter tone to it. So
Yeah.
it's absolutely
so that's-
delicious, and they can grow as big as like, 2 or 3
Yeah.
feet across if you're lucky enough
Yeah.
to find one that big.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
something to take
when
note of,
people,
is the color.
yeah,
Go
when
ahead.
people come from out west where we get our Sparassis, I think the one out here, it's typically white when it's fresh, and it gets
Yeah.
yellow as it matures. And when it gets a little old, it gets yellowish. The Arizona species is very yellow to begin with, so it kind of
Mhm.
throws you when you first see it, but
Yep.
they're really
Yeah.
great.
Has a little bit of like orangey, yellow, sometimes a little bit of
Mhm.
pink to it too. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bucket list mushroom
Yeah.
for a number of people, because that is a special mushroom. I mean, out west, we get so excited when we find them, and we find a few every year.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. We find a few a year out west, and when I'm in Arizona, I've had days where I find 5 of them in a day. I mean,
Right.
they're just it, and boy, is that a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to here. So a few edible mushrooms. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just like a few of the edible ones we can find on the rim. We got lobsters, king bolete, Caesars, shaggy manes, oysters, chanterelles, giant puffballs and small puffballs, cauliflower, like we just talked about, hawkswing, almond agaricus, morels, of course, in the spring, club coral, milk cap, velvet foot, and honeys.
Hey, can you
Then,
jump on
yep.
2 of those mushrooms before you go on to plants?
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to be unique for people that aren't in Arizona. Can you talk a little bit about the hawkswing, and also what the type of chanterelle you have there too?
Yeah, so Brent, can you go into anything with the Chanterelles or the
We
Hawkswing?
have the Rosie Canis, Chanterelles Rosie Canis. So it's a little bit smaller statue. It's very similar to the one that we find in Colorado. They usually
Mhm.
they in smaller stature and in clumps, like in groups usually, versus like singular mushrooms like in the Northwest and what side larger size, right? And
Mhm.
absolutely delicious. They have a very pungent odor of apricots, I say, and
Mhm.
probably tastier than some of the species found in the West along the coast, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Almost too tasty. I mean, we love them and we eat a
Yeah.
lot of them, and sometimes it's nice to just get a more mild one that you can really chow down on. These, I think those chanterelles that you have, those Rosie Canis, are just
Yeah.
special. They smell so good.
Yeah, and
Oh,
they
absolutely.
they also have a really firm texture, like a lot more firm than most of the other chanterelles I've had in North America. There are a lot of different chanterelle species in North America, and the Rosie Canis that you guys have is, to me, one of the very best. It is, they're really good.
If your eyes are
And
closed, Chad, can you tell it's a Rosie Canis if you taste it and smell it?
If I can hold it in my hand, I like my odds better. I'm very tactile, but
and
yeah,
one should say, like on the rim, they can fruit in big numbers too, and they can be found in just pine habitat, no fur present at all, which is kind of surprising, right?
Hmm.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
So I see a couple comments in the chat, and I don't think they're just similar to the Colorado shanties. I think they're the same species.
yeah,
It would make sense.
And yeah, like Kristen was just saying, I love using them in desserts. I love making jams and things out of them. They're great.
And the other one is the hawkswing. I think that's
Yeah.
a really special mushroom.
Yeah, so I'm looking up the scientific name of it right now. Sarcodon
Yeah.
imbricata. Yeah, that whole
Imbricatus.
imbricatus. There it is. Yeah, we have those out here. I think you want to try to find them when they're a bit younger, preferably. I haven't had too much experience with them personally, but they're out here. I've seen them. I've tasted them many years ago, but by the time I usually get to them, they're pretty old and blown out. But
They're really nice and meaty textured, really
yeah.
firm, meaty texture, and again, they can be. That's something I haven't picked a ton of in Arizona, but
Mhm.
again, it's probably the same species as a little further up in Colorado, and I've collected lots of them, and yeah, again, it's a good edible. They're fun to play with. Brent,
Yeah.
do they come up in really big numbers there, like they do further north in the Rockies?
not so much on the rim. We get them, I think, more on the in the White Mountains than we do in more fur habitats. But we do have other sarcodons too
Hmm.
on the rim, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, one species that we had documented there. I can't think of the name off the top of my head here, but
Yeah. Very bitter,
and
I think, right?
one of our members, like Mike Decter, has been making ketchup with them, with
Oh,
this
nice.
sarcodon that we've been finding, right? So yeah, it's pretty neat. But I actually personally don't like them. I find them a very strong flavor. Um, but it's actually I'm trying to think what they call
I think there's
it.
something about them that some people really object to them, and even a tiny bit in your food will make your food unpalatable for you. But other people like me enjoy them.
Yeah, they're definitely, so some people like them, some people don't, but the people who like them tend to really like them.
Yeah.
Kind of like the
Mhm.
Caesars are like that too, actually.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think in total we have like three or four different species of sarcodons, like here too, not only just the hawkswing, right? So which is kind of
Right.
interesting.
Yep. Cool. All right. I'll go on to the next slide. So edible plants. So we will be talking about edible plants on a few of these forays, but just wanted to make sure a note here that our permit may not cover official foray collection of plants. So make sure you respect the rules of the foray, depending if whether or not our permit allows that. We still have yet to get that approved. But if we don't have it for official foray collection, we will be talking about them on the walks, and we're gonna outside of the fray, we're going to make sure we can try to get some of these things for the event itself for tasting. So, but either way, it will be an educational experience. So a few of these edible plants is, pine pollen, fir tips, spruce tips, Salsify buds, Canada Violet, Spring Beauty. We have a bunch of wild mustards out here. Dandelion, of course, Lamb's Quarter, Bracken Fern Sprouts. Those are going to be more in the spring. Wild Bergamot, which is wild oregano, Sheep Sorrel and Alpine Sorrel, Black Raspberries, Raspberry Leaves, Wild Strawberries, Rose Petals, Locust Flowers, Grape Leaves, and we actually do have wild hops out here. I've actually collected some and I plan on doing something with them, but some of my beer elite friends have told me don't bother trying to make beer out of it because it's not good, but I refuse to believe that. So I'm gonna try to make some beer out of it anyway, which I'm pretty versed in making beer and mead, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so this is some of the wild plants that we have out here that are edible, and there's way more on than this list. A lot of flowers out here edible, like bluebells and things like that. So we have a lot to talk about on the rim. Trees, we have big tooth maple, aspen, conifers, white fir, ponderosa pine, gamble oak, Rocky Mountain juniper, and I'm sure there's more, but this is a good chunk of them. Wildlife. So we were talking about wildlife earlier. So of course, always be respectful to wildlife. Arizona has a lot more than you think. A couple of things to take note of is the Mexican spotted owl. So the areas that we will be having our forays are habitat to Mexican spotted owls, which are endangered. So we will have to be following very specific rules from the Game and Fish Department and the Forest Service. So don't bother the owls, and then everything will be good on that. So black bears, mule deer. We have white-tailed deer in smaller numbers than mule deer. Turkey, elk, rattlesnakes, of course, respect the rattlesnakes. Mountain lions, of course, respect the mountain lions. I've never seen a mountain lion myself. We have raccoons, skunks, and then that list does go on and on and on. But those are a few of the bigger species that you may have a chance of seeing.
Yeah, the elk, every time I'm on the
Yeah.
rim, there's a few, I don't know how many herds, but there's some big herds of elk out on the rim. Like I see them every time I'm there.
We've got a couple other species like Coatamundi too,
Yeah.
which can be found below the rim habitats usually. And ring-tailed cats are very common, like in Sedona below the rim, and
Mhm.
and other like Payson area and those kind of things too. But I've seen Coatamundi in Beaver Creek, which is
Have you?
just under the rim, which is which is incredible. So interesting species. Plus turkey, right? We had turkey listed in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, sure.
Yep, we got
See
turkey
'em
in
all
there.
the time there.
Yeah, all the time with turkey. Yeah, I didn't put the other two on there because like I've never seen them up there, but they say they're out there. But
Mhm.
yeah. So another just attraction, if you were near our area for the foray location, which is going to be the Strawberry Inn and Strawberry Lodge, is the Tonto National Bridge. It's a quick drive from the location, and it's this natural geologic feature where like I said, it's a natural bridge, and then we usually have some water coming off of it here, like a little waterfall. There's some pools of water in there. It's kind of cool. On the drive up, you can pop in, check it out. It only takes a few minutes to walk down to it. So it's just another feature if you're to check out when you're driving up to the event or away from the event. So that was all the slides I had. You can find out more information about Arizona Mushroom Society at arizonamushroomsociety.com or email us azmushroomsociety@gmail.com. And of course, we have the event page for Namazona. If that's not put into the event chat yet, we can put that in there. And then we'll kind of open it up to questions, stories. I know Chad has a very special story about Arizona, and then we can kind of go into all of ours.
Can I just add to that too, Mike? That we have
Yep.
the Arizona Mushroom Forum also on Facebook
Right. Yep.
too,
If
and
you
we're
search,
pretty active. Everybody's very active. You'll see a lot of people posting in morel season right now too.
right. Yep. Definitely. All right. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Chad, if you want to
Well,
start
I was
off.
just going to tell the story.
Yeah.
I mean, so I live in California. I live in the Bay Area in California, and I'm a chef, and I was leaving a job under very bad terms in 2015 in the end of July, at the end of July, and I put out word on social media at the time, like, I just want to get the hell out of here. Where can I go? Where are there mushrooms? If it's within a 24-hour drive, I'm ready. Where do I go? And somebody, one of the old Arizona mushroom group members who unfortunately has passed away after this, but responded and said, "Come to Arizona. There's tons of mushrooms here right now. It's great." And I thought it was a joke at first. And because like everybody else, my association of Arizona was desert and just, Phoenix, Tucson, desert, and not where I think of for mushrooms. And I realized she was actually kind of persistent, and I realized that that it might be worth a trip. And I had just started seeing actually who later became my wife, my partner at the time, and she was up for a trip, and it was the first like serious road trip we took together. And we came first into Flagstaff, and just looking for a place to park, just to get out and stretch our legs after driving from the Bay Area. We got out of the road or out of the car on our way into Flagstaff, and within 2 minutes of leaving the car, we were like surrounded by lobster mushrooms. And and that was just the beginning. We basically got chased back to the car in about in a half hour of collecting, where we filled a couple baskets of lobster mushrooms. We got chased back to the car by lightning, and we kept driving to our destination of the White Mountains. And it was just the White Mountains. There were so many mushrooms, such variety, such quantity of everything, like all the stuff that you saw in the slideshow. And it just became something where every year she and I went back. I think like 6 years in a row after that, we were coming back to Arizona to do mushroom trips. And we got, one of the, I don't remember if it was 2016 or 2017, the Arizona group did a joint foray with NAMA. And it just so happened that they announced the foray after we already had our plans to be in the White Mountains. And we already had reservations, we already had plans, and we wound up meeting a bunch of the Arizona people, some of whom are still very active in the club now. And I wound up actually doing a presentation at that at that foray, and got to know a lot of people. And again, it's just I still, every time I can, I try to get through. The last couple of years I haven't been able to, which is part of why I'm so excited to get back right now. But it's such a spectacular place when you get into the mountains. I'm not a desert person. I don't want to be in the desert. Driving across it to get to the mountains is enough for me. But the mountains of Arizona are just absolutely spectacular. They're a lot less crowded than a lot of the other mountain places you might think about. They're just endless fun habitat to explore. And again, I just, for my wife and I, it's a special place that we try to get back to every year if we can, just to hang out and to pick mushrooms both. That's all I wanted to say, really.
Well said. It's certainly a good reason why I live here anyway. Because most of my, from spring till like basically April 1st all the way to September, the end of September, I'm up in the mountains almost every weekend camping and getting out there and doing as much as I can.
Yeah, I see. Just Chris May was just put Chris May, one of my friends in Arizona here, was just posting that when David Aurora was down there a few years ago, he gathered 24 edible species in an hour or two, and I can vouch for that. That I have definitely, when the mushrooms are up, you can definitely get a couple dozen different edible species in an hour or two. It's just, there's so much variety, and it's fun.
Absolutely.
Chris just threw in there too that it's
Yeah.
also easy terrain to
Yeah,
walk on. It's pretty
it is.
flat.
Yeah.
So it's a very good, you can go not flat if you want, but for most of the mushrooms that you want to find, like, you really don't have to put in a lot of work up on the rim, as long as the conditions are right. We park on the side of the road, and then we just walk around on flat terrain and find really pretty much everything that we want to. And of course, don't forget to look up. We have oyster mushrooms as well here in Arizona, like lion's mane, like Brent has found a lot. Yeah, it's fairly easy terrain, so it's very accessible.
Plus, there's a road, the Rim Road 300, Forest Service Road 300, pretty much
Mhm.
goes from the west end of the rim all the way, I guess, into the White Mountains or
Yeah.
Mhm.
like Pine Top,
Colosimo.
Cholo, those areas, right? That Rim Road 300. So it's easy access. You can get it, like Chris says, you can get out of the car and just pick right out of off of the road kind of thing, right? In a lot of
Mhm.
instances, right? And
And that road, besides the access to the forest, there's parts of that road that you're driving right along the edge of the rim, and it is
Yeah.
just
oh,
spectacular.
exactly.
Where you have the view off the edge of the plateau for
Mhm.
like as far as the eye can see. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a spot
Yeah.
called I think it's Edge of the World or End of the World. I think it's Edge of the World, but it's a very Arizona famous location. It's on the rim, and I think it might be more towards Sedona. I can't. I'm not
Yeah.
100%
That's
sure.
still
Yeah,
considered part of the rim, right?
yeah,
But
it's still
it's
part
up
of the
on
rim,
it's up on the complex above Sedona kind of thing.
right? And there's a swing up there, so people have put a swing up there, and you can like kind of risk your life if you want to swing on some rotted swing. But yeah, it's just quite the view. But all along the road, Rim Road 300 is you could just stop, pull over, take a 2-minute walk to the very edge, and just see everything.
Now,
Plus
when
lots
you're
of
up on
great
that
things
rim
too.
road, when you're up
What's that?
there and when you're up on the rim road and you look west, it like drops down like very precipitously. If you look back east, does it kind of fade slowly again downhill, or what does it look like to the east topography wise?
It's a good question. I think it's fairly similar, honestly. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
the same. Parts
yeah,
of that go into the Apache reservation, right?
right.
So a lot of that's like reservation land, right? That's
I
below the rim in those areas, right? But as we go out further out east, right, towards the White Mountains.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think on the west side, the road is literally right on the rim. And
Yeah,
as you go further east, the road moves away from the edge.
yeah. I
Which
think
is the
that's
main
correct.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
correct.
What elevation will we be hunting at mostly when we're there, do you think?
Yeah, a good question. So we have it goes up to 8,000, I think, around that elevation. So 6 to 8 probably, depending on if we're below the rim or above the rim. But yeah, we'll be up there. So it's we'll have good elevation and good moisture, hopefully.
Jill asked us, the host and panelist, she missed the thing about what trees the boletes associate with. Can you talk a little bit about that? And when you're up on the rim, are there certain trees that you're focused on, or
Yeah, I don't focus on trees a lot up here in Arizona. I know that's a pretty big thing for a lot of other states and a lot of other hunters. But there's going to be some associations, of course.
Mhm.
But really, I mean, the majority of our trees are ponderosa pine, and almost everything seems to love the ponderosas. But we have firs, we have conifers, we have oaks in there. So you can try to get a little selective if you want, but for the most part, I just walk around.
Yeah, if you're looking for, again, if you're looking for some of these random weird things from further south that we don't usually see out west, or from further east that we don't usually see out west, you're probably going to start looking for the oaks, for example. But I'm with Michael. I kind of just walk around, and whatever's there, I'm usually pretty happy.
Yeah.
There's such a great variety too, right? But
Yeah.
some of the specific things, like if you're looking for lion's mane or something, you're looking for a couple of different tree species that we have here. They can occur on our big tooth maples, but they can also primarily occur on the Gamble's oak that we have, right? And that's where we love going to some of our old spots to hit some lion's mane during
Right.
the season. And they're usually kind of late in the game on the monsoon season, which is one of my favorites anyway. But we have like the firs and the barrows. Boletus barrosii
Yeah.
seem to be more in the ponderosa pines than up in the firs, and our red ruby bolete is more associated with spruce, but can be also found in the pines too. So a couple different habitats on that one, right?
Yeah, and then I mean the aspens have their own special stuff too. I mean what you called in your slide velvet foots, the kind of wild enoki, the flammulinas love the aspen groves. There's also in every aspen grove in the Rockies is the lexinums. And
Mhm.
you know, so there's things like that. I'm trying to think of some of the other weird stuff that likes the aspen.
We have a couple of the Lexinum here that,
Mhm.
you know, the one that's associated with the aspens, but we also have one that's not associated with the aspens. It's
Yeah.
in pine only. So we think it's like Vulpinum, but yeah, there's not an aspen in sight, and you see you
Yeah.
and you're coming along Scaber stalks, and you're going, what? It's
I
kind of
actually,
unusual.
my first time on the rim, I found one of those and I was baffled because I was in pure pine.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
Right.
yeah, and they're usually
yeah,
in little thickets of pine too. That's where you'll
yeah,
find them the most, where they seem to occur more in those areas, right? But
yeah.
Mhm. We got
What
a
kind of
couple
lion's
questions.
mane do you find there, Brent? What's the species on
um,
the?
it's just Ericium, I think, or Erasium, I think is that how you say it. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a standard one. We don't have like a unique one or anything,
Mhm.
but they're just so delicious, right? Just cutting them up and frying them
Yeah.
up. Or I like to make a chicken stock soup with them and throw some chard from the garden in there, and just a real simple recipe. But man, it's so
Nice.
good. Right?
Barbara Ching has a question in here.
Yeah.
I'm
So we
curious
got a
if
couple questions.
anyone
So
has an answer to that.
I'll go to Jill's first here. So Jill is asking if there's any permits required. So for this event, you know, NAMA and AMS will be getting the permits. Is if you were going by yourself, I don't think there's any permits required. It's only when you start charging for an event that you're required to get permits, insurance, and all that. So if you're out there on your own, I think it's all personal use. Some of the forests have rules now where you can only collect like 5 gallons a day, I think. Um, but I'm not sure exactly which ones those are. Uh, but you know, 5 gallons a day is a lot. So
Is
it's not like California, where California is very restrictive on their foraging. And this is all national forest that we'll be on, not BLM land, and definitely not the reservation, of course, reservations. So it's all national forest, and those forests may or may not have the same rules, but they're pretty generous here in Arizona with that.
And I'll add to that too, is that
Mhm.
it's primarily on the west rim, it's Coconino National Forest,
Yeah,
and on the east rim, it's Tonto National Forest, right?
right.
I believe.
Yep,
And
correct.
Apache too, even.
Yeah, Apache Sitgrave somewhere in there.
Yeah, Apache Sea Grapes. Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
We're going to be mostly on the west rim though, out of Strawberry.
Yep.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
mostly on the
It
west
would
rim.
be the
Yeah,
closest, yeah, to us.
yeah, yeah.
but
Uh,
anybody who's driving in and wants to go on their way in or out, there's
yep. There's
all
nothing.
kinds of
Yeah,
areas north and
right.
west and east and south in the Sky Islands. Even
Yeah,
there's so many places
right.
to explore if you've got a little time.
Yeah, nothing stopping you from doing that for sure. So Barbara Ching has a question about artifacts as you forage. What kind of rules are in effect from the Department of Natural Resources and Land Management Bureau? I do not have an answer for that one.
Is
I'm
Mike
not really
Decker
sure.
around? He might know
No, I
that
don't
one.
think he's on this one. So that's a good question. If you want to email us at azforay@namico.org or azmushroomsociety@gmail.com. I think those are in the chat somewhere. Maybe we could follow up with you on that one. I'm not 100% sure. I've never really collected anything. I don't know if I've ever seen any artifacts before, but of course you'd want to be respectful to, you know, uh, native items there, I think, and follow all those rules. But we do have a lot of fossils up there on the rim, and that's something that people don't realize is you'll see seashells up there of fossils, because all of this used to be underwater at one point in time. So if you're walking around the rim, you'll see just clamshells fossilized, and that's pretty cool. I definitely have some of those that I've taken back. Whether or not that's allowed, I think it is. I don't know though, but so maybe don't report me. But you know,
And so
but yeah,
there's a lot of pioneer cabins and things like that, right?
yeah,
But it's more
yeah,
pioneer type of age there.
right.
Most of the ancient like the Sonowan Indians and
Hmm.
the native peoples from the earlier days, most of those sites are towards Payson and below the rim.
Hmm. Hmm.
Tons of those areas, right? So I don't think
Right,
we'll encounter too much of that on the Nama because it's mostly forest up there, right? So you'll see
right,
the odd a cabin that's been deserted and like historic cabins, those kind of things, which is kind of neat actually too to approach.
right. Awesome. And yeah, the going back to, you know, how special Arizona is. You know, I started foraging in Denmark 2016. My friend took me out there, and then almost convinced me that we were going to die, unfortunately, because it was my first time eating mushrooms, and they were a little bitter. I was like, what are we doing? What is it? This isn't very good. And his wife at the time said, it's bitter. And then he started yelling, oh, no, no, no. I'm like, dude, I just put this in my mouth and swallowed it. And he fed it to his baby and everything like that. But it was a bitter bolete. That's all it was. But we were hunting boletes up there, and then I fell in love with it, and then came down to Arizona. Had a friend that was participating in Arizona Mushroom Society. I went on a foray, fell in love, and was just surprised and shocked about how many different kinds of mushrooms there are here. I would say it rivals most areas that are close to us. I don't see this kind of diversity in California. I definitely didn't see that diversity in Denmark. Arizona is a very unique place with such a variety of mushrooms that most people wouldn't think are here. A lot of times when I'm talking to people in California and like, oh, do you have these things? Do you have oysters? Do you have boletes? They're like, yeah, we have all of that stuff, and then some. So I think if you come to this event, you'll be quite surprised of how many mushrooms you'll be, different kinds of mushrooms that you'll be able to find. And I mostly just focus on edible mushrooms, but if you're a mushroom nerd and science nerd, which I think we all are here, you can go deep into the scientific species and, different kinds, doing the vouchering, the specimens, and finding very unique mushrooms that don't exist anywhere else. I know Alan Rockefeller posted, this was in Alpine, but I can't remember the name of it. I would have to look up the post, but we found a very, very rare little tiny purple mushroom up here, and I think it's only been found in Arizona. That was the second time. And
Entoloma or something.
Yeah,
right?
it was an entoloma of some
I
kind.
can't remember the
Yeah,
species, but it was Entoloma.
right.
The
But
genus.
yeah, we have such a diversity here. It's not to be missed.
Yeah, somebody was actually just telling me, I'm trying to look for it right now, was telling me that there's a couple actual psilocybe species also. For
There
people
is.
who are into this and that stuff that are native to that area. I don't remember the names of them off the top of my head. It's
Yeah.
not a genus I'm not interested in, but
Yeah, that's I
I
went
don't
on
think
that.
that one particular species. It's the Psilocybe hopeii. They've named
that
it
was one of
after
them. Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the tribes here in Arizona.
Right.
And it's been found, but it's mostly or the only occurrence I think of that one's been found in the San Francisco Peaks, which is closer to Flagstaff, right?
Yeah, there are a couple species out here, and that's one of the hikes I went on with Alan Rockefeller. We were just, after the annual foray, he was on a hunt for that specifically, and that was like a 5-hour endeavor because Alan will just keep going and going. I eventually had to leave, but that's when we found that Entoloma. But yeah, we do have a couple of species here that are very, very small, very, very tiny. So that's kind of why I don't really bother with trying to find those. It's just like you have to be on a specific mission to find that. Entoloma occidentale,
Yeah, there you go.
I can't even pretend to try to say this, but I will post the name of it in the chat for everybody. And it was quite a find. It's a very beautiful mushroom, and it was one of those very rare moments of finding something in Arizona that not too many people have found.
Hey, can you drop your 2 email addresses in there
Yeah,
too,
I'll do that.
Michael? Because
Yep.
we had some people, I think Julie was asking as well,
Yep.
how to get in touch with you.
Definitely.
And I'm going to kind of emphasize what you guys just said, even like from somebody I picked in Colorado or Wisconsin or the West Coast. It's really interesting how, half of the species that you have will be familiar to those areas, but the other ones aren't. And even just coming down from Colorado, these crazy mushrooms that you have that aren't available there, and in the Rockies, the Central Rockies. So the species really, it's almost like you want to be like, that can't be right. How can you have that there? But indeed, you have a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a really great opportunity for somebody that wants to kind of come out it's easy to fly into Phoenix. It's easy to get to the Strawberry Inn where we're staying. It's a really great opportunity to really kind of spread your wings and not just pick a bunch of cool mushrooms, but have some total experts there at the ID table so you can see what's coming out. And then the whole culinary thing that is going to happen, which we're not really talking about so much tonight, but this event is a culinary event.
Yeah, and we have Chad here, so maybe Chad can touch on that a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, just I guess to segue a little bit, I one of the things I've always enjoyed about the Arizona Club, and again, I've had friends there now for the last 7 years or so, is it's a really nice mix of, like, there's some really good science people in the club. So Terry's been doing that for as long as I've known anybody in the club, and she's phenomenal. Um, and anybody interested in the science side is going to have plenty to do,
Hmm.
and plenty of people who are interested and who know what they're doing. But yeah, the food side too. I know a lot of my memories in Arizona have to do with just cooking up mushrooms and eating them. And this so for this foray, what we're talking about doing, I'm gonna be doing a 5-course dinner on Saturday night for everybody. Every course will have some kind of mushroom focus to it. I don't have a menu yet because I want to be much more seasonal and see what's good in the moment than trying to plan that far ahead. Uh, but I'm excited to use the local stuff. I've been talking to Jess already about, she knows plants. I want to talk to Mike Dector also about
Hmm.
plants and try and use as much of the local flora as well, not just the mushrooms. Um, I know also on Friday night, so that should be really fun. I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to that. On Friday night, also my understanding is that there's going to be kind of a collaborative dinner also where five different people are each going to do a course, something along those lines, and
Hmm.
that should also be really interesting, fun dinner. Um, I don't know the details of that one. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
Julie's here. I think she's the one who's got to herd cats for that one.
Right. Yeah. So we have a few chefs that have registered, or have agreed to be there. And Julie's involved with that one as well, of course. But basically, I don't know if we can unmute Julie. I don't think so. Um, but yeah. So we're going to be doing a tasting course. So we'll have several chefs, each doing a dish. And there's going to be a lot of local flavors here. So we do have the ability to taste a lot of these things. And of course, Chad's going to be using some of those things in his dishes, hopefully. But yeah, you'll get a very good selection of different kinds of flavors of Arizona. So it's going to be very focused on the region, the time period, and see where that takes us.
Yeah, and I think that even for my dinner on Saturday night, I don't know how this applies to Friday or not, but on Saturday night at least we were talking about trying to even get there's some local wineries even, and we're going to
Hmm.
try and get some of the local wines in to go with the dinner too. So
Yep.
that should be really fun. I don't know any of the local wines, so I'm pretty curious and excited
Yeah.
about that myself.
Yeah, we have some good ones, especially in the Verde Valley. There's a lot of unique wineries there, and it's very interesting soil and water supply in the Verde Valley River. So it offers a pretty unique wine, in my opinion. And I'm not a wine connoisseur. I know Julie, unfortunately, still is muted. We can't do that, but unmute her. But it's they have some pretty spectacular wines here in Arizona. And then we have there's wineries in Flagstaff. Your more popular. Um, Trent Reznor, of course, has his wineries up here. Um, but yeah, the Verde Valley is really good for wine, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we keep saying Julie's name. For those of you who
Yeah,
don't know, Julie Schreiber we're talking about, who is has been a very active NAMA person for a long time. She worked as a chef for a while, but these days she actually works as a winemaker. So she's our resident wine expert who we keep referring back to. So yeah.
and I was just corrected in the chat by Chris. Thank you, because I panicked there. It's Maynard, not Trent Reznor. Maynard James Keenan has several wineries out here, and I am a Tool fan, and I messed that up. So yeah, thanks for correcting me. Um, we do have.
Oh, so one of the questions here I see
Mhm.
is about vegetarian,
Yep.
vegan friendly dishes. Um, for the dinner that I'm doing, I can accommodate vegetarian, vegan. The big thing is though, I need to know in advance when people are registering for this because it's not like I can run to the Safeway where we're going to be. We need, or whatever the local supermarket chain is there. I need to know in advance. So make sure if you've got special dietary needs, and also I'm sure this is going to be true for all the meals, make sure that you express them when you do the registration. And I know we talked about this. I haven't seen the registration form, but I know we talked about this before amongst ourselves, that we need to make sure people are telling us that. But we absolutely can accommodate vegetarian, vegan, etc. Okay, and Brooke is responding saying that, yeah, that's part of the registration.
All right, I think we've kind of worked through all of our questions
Yeah.
here, and we've done a great job. I think I'd like to finish by asking each of you three, yeah, what is going to be the most exciting gourmet mushroom that you're going to find during Arizona that really just gets you the most excited to find and eat?
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first because I'm a bit envious of Brent's lion's mane. I have not personally ever got a lion's mane in Arizona, but that's also because I forget to look up.
I
So
was
if
going to
I,
say exactly the
yeah,
same thing, actually. I never found a lion's mane in Arizona because I'm always
yeah,
looking down at all the mushrooms.
yeah, because you're so preoccupied with all of the mushrooms on the ground that you forget to look up. And I have never gotten a lion's mane in Arizona. I've gotten lion's mane other places, but to be able to eat a lion's mane from Arizona that I found, I think would be my bucket list item there.
Right.
Well, I think the gratification from finding lion's mane here is mastering a technique of how to get them.
Yeah, there's that
Most
too.
of them are like 40 feet up, right? So we get real imaginative about our means of acquiring those.
I'm curious to talk to you about that at some point during the event, because
Yeah.
in California, we play those games too with the lion's manes, and it's, would be somebody climbing a tree with a pole to try and reach up high while
Right.
somebody else is standing below trying to catch it as it falls off the tree. Right.
Exactly. And for myself, I actually like the Boletus Sparassis on the rim. I really love that mushroom. I just cut up fresh, right? If you get the buttons and have some olive oil, salt and pepper on it, that kind of thing. And just we'll do that on our forays sometimes if they're available, for sure, right?
Yeah,
So good.
Yeah, I don't know how to pick a favorite there. I just get so excited to go there, and just I'm try to be motivated by whatever's up and happening in the moment. There's
Do
oh,
it, Chad. You
my
got to
wife
tell
is
us
trying
one.
to get me to start trouble, but I'm not going to.
Do it. You got to pick one, Chad.
What?
You got to pick one.
Oh, wow. I mean, the first one that came to mind, I don't know if we'll have enough to use it for one of the meals or something, is I love finding the flammulina, the little aspen version of the enoki that grow. I love those. And I kind of have fun hunting them. They're maddening to hunt. But they're when you find big clusters of them, it's so satisfying. I really like those. I probably the one I'm most excited to pick a lot of, because it's been a couple years since I've been able to, and I'm hoping to be able to use them for the big dinner on Saturday, is the Caesars, the Cochisiana. I love playing with that one, so
I've tried some of your creations with that. I think you
Yeah.
made like a salad, like a shrimp salad or something with them.
I like to do a ceviche with them.
Yeah, ceviche, that's it. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. I sampled your ceviche with those and it was awesome.
And anyone feel free to drop in the chat what you want to find.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think Chris said something there. I didn't get it.
Oh yeah, Chris. So Chris is talking about the Amanita barrousii, which is it looks very similar to what we in California have as Amanita villosa, and it's got like almost a sweet flavor. I have collected and eaten that mushroom a few times, and it's good, and it's fun to find also.
They grow in the aspens, don't they?
Yeah, some years they seem like they're really common in the aspens, and some years I don't see them at all.
We did a blind taste test with David Aurora, and with a bunch of mushrooms, and not the obvious ones, and that mushroom won.
The Barasii, the Amanita
Yeah.
Barasii.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
it was delicious.
Yeah, some of the amanitas are not good beginner mushrooms. Like you need to know the amanitas locally before you start picking amanitas, but some of the amanitas are some of my favorite edibles. There's a lot of really good eating amanitas.
Or I see Chris May called it the Aspen Amanita. I
Yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was like, yeah. I guess that's why it's called that. So thank you everyone for attending today and asking all these great questions. Big thanks to Brent, Chad, Michael for really sharing all your information with us today. And I am so excited to see you all in August at this event and go find some mushrooms.
Yeah,
So,
I'm super
absolutely.
excited. I told you guys how special Arizona is to me, and I'm super excited to be part of this. I'm super excited to see you guys and to just be there. So,
Yeah, bring your friends.
yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
all right. Good night,
See you
everyone.
soon.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much.
guys.